Okay, so let's have a look. We'll come back to the graphing stuff, but we're just going to have a look at the solving the linear equations things. So I'm going to have a look to start with at the 3 examples. So we'll do example 20 on page 19. I'll just go through it with you. You can make your notes. But again, just getting you into the habit of using these examples in your textbook. They're all there. They do 3 different ones to take you from one stage to the next stage to the next stage. So, top of example 20, we've got solve for x and graph the solutions, which really they're asking you for the number line rather than the graph, right? But so we're going to do A is solve 3x minus 4 is less than or equal to 2. So what we're saying here is whatever x value you use in this equation, you are not allowed any answer unless that answer is 2 or less. Any answer that's greater than that, not allowed it. Why would we ever bother with this? Well, let's say we're solving an applied case where you've got money, for instance, and it's like, well, the equation here is the cost for this and this all added together, but you've only got $100 to spend. So that would be, well, all of that added together has to be less than 100. So that's why we're doing this. Right? So, solving this basically, right? What we can do is imagine that this is just an equal sign and do exactly what we've done before. So what would be your first step? Add the 4, good. Add the 4 first. Okay, so that would leave me with 3x, because add 4 gets rid of the subtract 4. 3x must be less than or equal to 6. And then you
6 times 2.
divide by 3. Good. So I'm going to divide it by 3 because that gives me x should be less than or equal to 6 divided by 3 as well is 2. Okay? And we ought to check whether you do it on paper or whether you do it in your head. Pick a value that x is less than 2. So I'm going to check with an easy one. Just say x is 1. Alright, make it nice and easy. So what that means is that if I've done it correctly, 3 times 1 minus 4 should give me an answer less than or equal to 2. It should do. So 3 minus 4, well that's minus 1. Is it less than or equal to 2? Yes it is, I'm fine. Okay. Like I said, do that in your head, do that on paper, whichever one you feel. Alright? Happy with that? Okay. The next, so we've then got to show that graphically, but what they actually mean is on a number line. So if I'm going to do a number line to show this, it's as simple as, you don't need to put all the numbers in, no scale necessary, straight line. I take the value that I've worked out, which is 2. Okay, I have to put an arrow point into the direction I'm allowed, so x is less than that, so that means we go that way. And do I have an open or a closed circle? Closed circle on the end. To say we're not allowed, no, sorry, we are allowed to. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes.
Like in a test, will we get a mark, take it off, if like we don't have the dot?
Yes.
Yeah. That's like...
Because if you were asked to draw that, is that an important aspect of you drawing that?
Yes.
Yeah, so there will be a mark lost if you don't do it. You know, it's like saying, well, if I draw the arrow the wrong way, would I lose the money? Yeah, it's like things that aren't important to the question, you might find there's no mark for it. Okay? Right. How about the second one? I think that's pretty much the same, yeah? But what's different about the second one? I will write it to show we've got 3 minus 2x is less than 7. So So actually it's a good one to check on your how to solve it. So what do you do first?
Minus the 3.
-3, good. -3. Well, that's nice and easy because that becomes 4. What do I get left with on this side? -2x. Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Some people would make the mistake of adding 3 instead. Yeah? Because they've done it the other way round. So it's a common mistake. That, if you do that, is because you're still thinking about moving the 3 the other side. Okay? And you look at the minus going with the 3 when it's not. If you remember that the sign goes with the term that follows it. And when there's no sign, that means it must be a positive. We only put a sign if it's a negative. Okay? So that's one way of making sure you do the right thing. And just to finish off, therefore, x will be less than -2. Okay. So let's just do a check here. All right. And pick a value less than -2.
-1.
So x equaling -1 is not less. -4. Okay. All right. You did say you were ill and tired, so that's fine. So that would mean that 3 minus 2 times -4 should be less than 7 if we're correct.
Yes.
So let's just check. 3 minus 2 times -4 is -8, should be less than 7. And 3 minus -8 is 11. Should be less than 7. No. No, we've done nothing wrong. This is why it's important to
But I
check.
have a question.
Yeah?
Isn't that -2? Is that not -2?
It's 3 subtract 2 times whatever x is. We've done nothing wrong. You followed the rules that I've told you. There is something in the book that it says, which, do you remember last time I said about, oh, if you do this with negatives, you've got to swap the sign. Right. So basically what we found out is the sign is the wrong way round.
Which sign?
The sign in the middle. So when our check is wrong, we basically go, okay, the sign's the wrong way round. So we have to do x is greater than -2 instead. That's why we should check. Now I can give you the rule. The rule is, at this point, we divided by -2. Both sides, yeah?
Yeah.
So the rule is, if you divide by negative, the sign will switch.
Okay. Can I just write that down?
Yeah? You can, that's something that I don't. So have a look at the woman with the little yellow speech bubble in your textbook. So it says, notice the reversal of the inequality sign in B, line 4, as we are dividing by -2.
And that's only for division?
Well, you could check, because actually it's the same as times in by -1/2. So actually it'd probably be if you used to multiply by a negative number as well. So if you multiply or divide, you can check that. Well, I kind of go, well, am I ever going to remember if I'm divided by -2, or is it just worth doing the check at the end and swapping the sign if I've got the wrong, because now, for instance, if I do a second check with something bigger than -2, so something bigger than -2, -1 if you want, check with x equals -1. Now we've got 3 subtract 2 times -1 should be less than 7. I don't change the sign on that bit. So we've got 3 minus -2 should be less than 7, and 5 should be less than 7. Now we're right, just by swapping the sign around. Okay?
Fabulous.
So doing that check, so maybe we should write in our notes, check is incorrect. Okay. change the sign. Have you done your notes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, let's skip example 21 because it's pretty much another of the same thing. You can have a look at it if you need. What we'll have a look at now is example 22. Alright, because we've got the next step. You see how the examples give you something new. So we've got to solve 3 minus 5x has got to be greater than or equal to 2x plus 7. So now we've got equations on both sides.
Do we just switch the
No, I know what you're saying. I just don't like it when I hear the switch and move and things.
So we would have to minus.
Yeah, so we eliminate x's, don't we, is what you're saying, yeah. So go on, go for it.
So we could subtract 2x.
We can subtract if you want. That might not necessarily be what everyone would do, but you can do it. That would give you 3. What would it give you here? Minus 5x minus another 2x would be? Minus 7x. Okay. And this would equal 7.
Yes. And then we can subtract 3.
Subtract 3, good, because remember that would be a plus 3.
Yes.
So we can subtract 3 and get left with minus 7x is greater than or equal to 4.
4, yes.
And then?
And then we would have to divide. Minus 7.
Minus 7. So therefore x would be?
Not a whole number.
Not a whole number. And what do you put in the middle, have you noticed? So
you would have to switch the...
So we've divided by a negative, so we're suggesting basically. So we'd switch the sign around. So we might as well, if we do remember, let's do it. Let's still do a check though. Check with x. So x has to be something less than, well, if I've got a minus here, are you all okay if I do get rid of the minus and put it somewhere else, like up here? So it's just minus 4 over 7. Because if you've got a negative anywhere in the fraction, you can just put it, yeah? So what if I said I need a value that's less than minus 4 over 7? Nice and easy one. No fractions, tip, no fractions if we can. Give me the first easy number less than minus 4. Less than. Negative 1.
Oh, what am I saying?
Yeah, negative 1 is less than minus 4 over 7.
Yes.
Okay? Don't. Minus 4 over 7 is not quite minus, it's not even, it's just over halfway, isn't it? So if we use that, that is less than negative 4 over 7. If you did negative 5 over 7, you're fine. You just give yourself a harder one to do. So then what we do is this. We should say that 3 minus 5 times negative 1 should be greater than or equal to 2 times negative 1 plus 7. Yeah? Yeah. Stick it on the back table there, I'll pick it up afterwards. So that's what we're saying. We're going back to this first statement. So 3 minus what?
It's plus.
So negative 5 makes 8. That should be greater than or equal to negative 2 plus 7, which makes negative 2 plus 7? 5. So is 8 greater than or equal to 5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're happy with our check. Right, so that looks like it's fine. Now, of course, if you've done something wrong in your maths, your check might still work. Okay? But that check is not for have you got the actual minus 4 over 7 bit right, simply have you got your sign right. But assuming that you did the rest of it correctly, our final result is okay. Alright? So just to recap here, for those that have just walked in, we did our imagining that that's an equal sign. We just did everything the same. We looked at the last example where if you divide by a negative number, so divide by a negative, then you switch the sign. But, as I said, don't rely so much on that. Make sure that you still do a check afterwards. Alright, check with your answer. Right. Any questions? No? So, what I will say is then, on page 91, you've got exercise 3G. You've got questions 1, 2, 3, and 4. What I suggest you do is I think questions 1 is full of quite simple, easy ones. It starts getting a bit harder, 2, 3. Maybe check that you can do a range of them.
What does negative mean?
Negative. Yeah.
Take a seat already to you.